Ex Machina garnered heaps of critical acclaim following its release in 2015, and a majority of people loved how cerebral and self-contained the story was, and rightly so. But one thing that sticks out as a positive, above all else, at least for me, is Oscar Isaac as Nathan Bateman, and I'm not talking about his performance, which by the way is fantastic. The writing and production design adds layers to this character and his psyche, so let's dive right into this analysis. What if Nathan's house is a physical representation of his mind? Now that's not too far-fetched. He's isolated himself both geographically and mentally, and therefore probably recoiled into his own mind. If we look at the scene where the prosthetic faces of robotic women are shown, this works as a hint toward his failed relationships with real women in the past, and perhaps why he decided to create his own woman in Kyoko. The lab could be a representation of both Nathan's intimate life and failings in the past. There is a true Frankensteinian nature to Nathan's work. He believes himself to be superior to all, and for the majority of the film he's trying to create a monster. This superiority complex spreads throughout his entire life, and hiring Caleb allows him to continue with this mindset. He's Caleb's physical and intellectual superior, quite simply.
Nobody programmed me to be straight.
You decided to be straight? Please, of course you were programmed. By nature or nurture or both. And to be honest, Caleb, you're starting to annoy me now because this is your insecurity talking. This is not your intellect.
That is why he regularly starts off conversations by saying to Caleb, "Do you know how I?"
Do you know what the Turing test is?
He knows that Caleb doesn't know, but by asking him it reinforces his intelligence and makes him feel superior. It also belittles Caleb. Nathan rarely ventures outside of his house, but when he does, it's done to strong effect. He's always exercising, wholly engrossed in his physique and how he appears. He could do all of that exercising indoors, but by going outside, it reinforces his idea of masculinity and gives him yet another superior edge. He wants people to know of his physical capabilities, and that's supported by when Caleb first meets Nathan. He walks into the house and finds Nathan throwing punches at a bag. Usually, you would have expected Nathan to be a quiet dude in a lab coat perhaps, but this is all subverted. The house is a visual aid for Nathan's mind, and so far we have uncovered two examples. The lab is his intimate life, where he metaphorically hides the skeletons in his closet, and the patio where he exercises is his narcissism. He wants to be viewed by everybody as a strong man. That is where the dichotomy of the two comes into play. By showing himself to be a strong man, he pushes that lab into the corner of his mind and away from the majority of people. He doesn't want to be viewed as weak or flawed, much like his creations. One of the more comedic scenes in Ex Machina is the dance scene. Some viewers may have found it nonsensical and disjointed to the overall tone of the film, but it's definitely not disjointed. If we follow this pattern that Nathan's house is his mind, then it makes sense, right? When he dances, it's his way of unwinding mentally. It's the only time he cares not for his image, and the fact that we only see him dance once plays into this notion that he is regularly concerned of upholding his superior intellect and physical build.
I'm gonna tear up the fucking dance floor, dude. Check it out.
There is one particular moment where we enter Ava's mind and see what she longs for. Due to this, it's probably conceivable that Nathan's story is, in fact, projected through his mind, and it would tie into this idea that the house physically represents his psyche. Nathan's superiority complex is something I've briefly brushed over, but it's one of the key components of his personality. When talking to Caleb, he says, "I'm going to keep doing this until they outsmart me." He is testing artificial intelligence, backing his own mental superiority to triumph every single time. Yet in the end, he goes from being someone who suffers from a messiah complex to becoming a pawn in Ava's game. He gets played, and it's the first time we see him lose control of his world, his mind. The reason Caleb is brought to this isolated location is not because he wins a competition, as the film obviously confirms, but I also think it's not for the reason Nathan gives, which is Caleb's search engine and interests. Personally, I think it's because he knows how meek Caleb is, and therefore identifies an easy target to use as a test subject. Furthermore, Caleb always feeds into Nathan's narcissism and gives his work validity, especially when he refers to Nathan's creation as the history of gods.
If you've created a conscious machine, it's not the history of man. That's the history of gods.
Nathan's last name is Bateman, the same as American Psycho's resident narcissist Patrick.
I've got to return some videotapes.
The name is no coincidence, it's a clear homage to American Psycho's protagonist, as well as adding that narcissistic edge to Nathan's character.
One day the AIs are going to look back on us the same way we look at fossil skeletons in the plains of Africa. An upright ape living in dust with crude language and tools.
Writer-director Alex Garland created a compelling and beautifully layered antagonist, combining strong writing with the isolated location to visually crack open Nathan's genius mind.
Very easy with a character that is smart and sinister to start caricaturing yourself. I think Oscar's just way too smart to do that, and he keeps it very grounded. He's also very witty. He can find humour in lines, which is really important in a film like this.